I've been reading a lot of manga lately, and when CoryxKenshin announced that he was actually going to be releasing a manga and I could buy it and read it for $20 digitally, I decided to do it. So I'm going to be reading it in this video and just giving my thoughts as I read it. I obviously can't show you the pages. I don't think this video would stay up. But yeah, I'm going to let y'all know whether I think it's good or not. I don't know how this is going to look on actual paper, but just off rip digitally, I like the fact that it is square and not rectangular, because if you've ever tried to read manga on computer, you probably know it's kind of hard to read the text sometimes because they have to narrow out the page, which makes the text pretty small. But this digital version is absolutely beautiful. I like how I can read it easily, and it is square. It pretty much takes up my whole monitor. So yeah. They kind of just throw you into this manga. There isn't much context of what is going on, but I'm just going to keep reading. I'm on page 4. I'm assuming they are just assuming that I'm not stupid and I will eventually understand what's going on. So I'm going to have a little bit of faith here. As far as the art style, I don't really like it that much. I think it looks okay. It just kind of looks generic. There's really nothing that special here. For the most part, I think the art is generic, and then some panels, they just increase the budget like crazy, and it's a very good looking drawing when they're trying to be scary. So far, every time this nasty looking dude appears, he's drawn with intent, and it looks pretty good. Yeah, I still really don't know what's going on, but there's a scary scene. I'm on page 18 and the art is definitely picking up. All right, immediately among clearly the main character being introduced, the artwork got a lot better. I'm actually understanding what's going on and the dialogue feels natural and comprehensive. The earlier scene was just throwing you straight into the action to try to get you hooked. I would have rather the manga started like this, but that's the problem when I'm doing a review like this. I don't know what's gonna happen next. I probably should have just done the review after I read it all, but you know, I'm just letting y'all know what's going through my head. All right, chapter 1 is finished, and obviously I've not read enough to tell you whether this is good or not, but if you were expecting some YouTuber slop, this is not what this is at all. It is a actual manga, and so far, I mean, I'm hooked. I'm ready to see what happens next. In chapter 2, I realized that this manga is actually very good. We got some Your Lie in April vibes, as the main character is a musician that started music for reasons outside of just liking music. We got some character development there. I don't want to spoil too much, but I mean, I'm sure it won't hurt to just tell you this scene. He basically wears headphones and always has music in his ears because he doesn't want to hear what people think about him, which, you know, some good writing in my opinion. We got some good character development here, and I'm excited for the following chapters. I like how the main character is confident within his abilities. He's not starting off insecure and scared, but at the same time, this isn't some sort of power fantasy. He's not the best at everything right away, but he's definitely got some abilities and he's backing it up throughout this chapter. It's also just a pretty unique main character. I feel like we see a copy-paste protagonist a lot nowadays. This guy is definitely interesting, and I look forward to seeing what he can do and what he's about, which, you know, is not very common with main characters nowadays. Sometimes I just think they're placeholders to make the story move, but no, this guy's pretty interesting. All right, chapter 3 finished, and so far I'm finding it pretty interesting. It hasn't really answered too many questions as of yet, but I've only read 3 chapters, so I don't really expect it to, but I can see this being an anime adaptation. If the first episode were to be these first 3 chapters, I think it would do extremely good at hooking people. I genuinely do. I know it was Corey's goal in that video. He said he wanted this to eventually get an anime adaptation, and I think it would work out pretty well. This does seem like it has anime potential. All right, instantly upon making it to page 100, I am excited to see what happens next. I was interested in seeing what happens next because CoryxKenshin's said in his video this was a horror manga, and to be completely honest with you, I'm not too interested in horror, but now upon making it to page 100, it has become very clear to me this is not just a horror manga. This is kind of more so leaning towards action. Think Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, there is some scary things in there, I guess you could say. The monsters are like scary, but the main character isn't just a victim. I can pretty clearly tell what kind of manga this is going to be, and it is going to be very similar to Solo Leveling and Jujutsu Kaisen. I like Solo Leveling. I didn't like Jujutsu Kaisen that much, to be completely honest with you, but I'm just saying the premise is similar. I think this has a lot of potential now, while as before I was just kind of interested in seeing what happened. Now I'm excited, man. Upon finishing chapter 4, that was the actual hook. Before, I wasn't too interested. I thought whatever, this is like a 5 out of 10 6 out of 10. But now I'm thinking this could easily be a Jujutsu Kaisen Tokyo Ghoul level manga. I just got to keep reading, but no, this is getting a little crazy. All right, I just finished chapter 5 and this is absolutely amazing. The art looks fantastic. The action sequences and the story pretty much remind me of Solo Leveling. Maybe I'm being a little biased there because I'm currently reading Solo Leveling, but it seems pretty similar. Everything here is great, man. That chapter just told a story about how social media influencers can have too strong of a pull on someone. I don't know how involved CoryxKenshin actually was in the making of this manga, but I would not doubt that that chapter was kind of written through his experience. But that's not all it had to offer. We saw some great action sequences. That was just overall an amazing chapter. Chapter 5 is probably the best chapter in this manga so far. This is 100. I'll wait until the end to give my final thoughts, man. All right, chapter 6 answered a lot of questions that I didn't think were worth talking about in my review, but when he first got to the school, a bunch of people were kind of being disrespectful towards him, and I didn't really understand why, but I just assumed they were natural villains because why not, man? Every anime has to have some dude who's just rude for zero reason, but it turns out they weren't really being rude to him. They just knew he didn't understand, and he was probably going to end up leaving the school, so they were a little tough on him at first, just trying to, you know, get him acclimated to the situation. And then in the last chapter, the main character teamed up with some people and was kind of acting like he knew them. I didn't really understand, but I was just like, whatever. And then in this current chapter, they got to know each other a little bit. The main character snapped on someone because they don't know each other. They're complete strangers and they're being rude to each other just like they were earlier in the manga. But then, you know, they got to know each other. It settled down a little bit. There's really no plot holes so far. There's nothing where I'm just like, why is that a thing? Everything makes sense, man. I'm liking it. All right, chapter 7 done. We got to see a little bit of action, but more importantly, the majority of this chapter was spent kind of explaining how the suits that the characters wear works and explaining some other stuff. I liked how they didn't have to overcomplicate how they explain things. The main character asked because the main character is just like us. He wants to know what's going on. So he asked and he got answers. All right, volume 1 has been finished. It is time for my final thoughts. Before I give them to you though, please leave a like on the video because I spent $20 on making this video. And before I give my final thoughts, I also want to say I do not watch CoryxKenshin's videos. I've never seen them in the past. Maybe I've peeked at them and watched like 30 seconds, but I've never actually been a fan of CoryxKenshin. I just know that he made a manga because I saw his newest video on my YouTube page and I decided to buy it and check it out. So that being said, what do I think of this manga? CoryxKenshin said in his video that his goal is to get an anime adaptation, and I 100% without a shadow of a doubt know that this is going to get an anime adaptation. You can come back to this video when it does, but I am positive it is going to get adapted to an anime, not only because Cory is a big name and this is obviously going to get a lot of sales, but because this is a genuinely good manga. I am not lying when I say that in my opinion this is a Jujutsu Kaisen level manga. I do think that this has the potential to go mainstream if it is adapted into an anime. Is it better than Solo Leveling? Because I've compared it to Solo Leveling throughout this video, I think I prefer the first 9 chapters of Solo Leveling a little more. But that being said, this is an extremely good manga. If I give Solo Leveling's manga a 9 out of 10, I would give this a 8 out of 10. I thought it was very solid. I think it has potential to be an anime, and I think it is worth every bit of that $20, especially when you consider you are going to be getting a actual physical edition of the manga for that price. I think it took me around 2 hours or so to read this whole thing. So for $20, I mean, that's solid, man. It's a good deal. So yeah, final thoughts. It was good. Leave a like on the video, subscribe for more anime and maybe manga content depending on how this does. I will see you later.